Domestic violence survivors. The stories they don't tell. The chipped porcelain mug warmed my hands, but not my insides. Coffee, black as the knot in my stomach, did little to soothe the tremor that had become a permanent resident. Outside, the Pennsylvania summer shimmered, a deceptive heat haze over the postcard-perfect town of Havenwood. Havenwood. Irony dripped from the name. It had been 6 months since I'd arrived, 6 months of breathing shallow breaths, of flinching at sudden movements, of seeing his face in every crowd. 6 months of trying to scrub Mark from my skin, from my memory, from the very air I breathed. My gaze drifted to the window, to the overgrown rose bushes that clawed at the side of the cottage. Mrs. Henderson, my next-door neighbor, had planted them. She was a whirlwind of pastel cardigans and unsolicited advice, a walking, talking Hallmark movie. She meant well, I knew, but her incessant cheerfulness grated against the raw edges of my fear. "They need pruning, dear," she'd chirped yesterday, peering over the low fence that separated our properties. "Otherwise, they'll just keep growing wild." I hadn't responded. The roses felt like a metaphor, a visual representation of the tendrils of trauma that threatened to choke the life out of me. The first incident had been small, insignificant, easily dismissed. A picture frame knocked off the shelf. I'd blamed the uneven floorboards, the age of the cottage. Then came the phone calls. Silence on the other end. A heavy, oppressive silence that felt thick with unspoken threats. I changed my number, unlisted it. Then, last week, the note. Tucked under my windshield wiper, scrawled in crude, blocky letters, "I'm watching you." My breath hitched. I crumpled the note, shoved it deep into the overflowing trash can, and tried to convince myself it was a prank, a teenage dare gone wrong. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing, festering, poisoning my fragile peace. Emily, my best friend, was the only one who understood, or at least tried to. She lived an hour away, in a small apartment above a bakery. Every weekend, I drove to see her, seeking refuge in her no-nonsense attitude and unwavering support. "He wouldn't dare," she'd said, her voice tight with anger, when I told her about the note. "He knows he'll go back to jail." But Mark didn't care about jail. He cared about control. He craved it, needed it, like a drug. And I had been his fix for far too long. Yesterday, Detective Miller had come by. He was a tired-looking man with eyes that had seen too much. He listened patiently as I recounted the incidents, his expression unreadable. "We can't do anything without evidence, Miss Walker," he'd said, his voice weary. "A note, a phone call. It's not enough. The system." It protected him, shielded him behind layers of bureaucracy and legal loopholes. I was on my own. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of leaves outside my window, sent my heart racing. I lay in bed, clutching the small can of pepper spray Emily had given me, my senses on high alert. Then, I heard it. A scraping sound, outside my bedroom window. Low, deliberate, like someone was dragging something across the gravel. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. I fumbled for the pepper spray, my fingers trembling. The scraping stopped. Silence. Then, a tap. A light, tentative tap on the glass. I didn't move. I couldn't. Fear had paralyzed me, turned me into a statue. Tap, tap, tap. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, I reached for the bedside lamp. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped it. I clicked it on. The sudden burst of light startled me, made me jump. I peered through the gap in the curtains. Nothing, just the rose bushes, swaying gently in the night breeze. I let out a shaky breath, trying to calm my racing heart. It was probably just a branch, scraping against the window. I was letting my paranoia get the better of me, but as I turned away from the window, I saw it. Scrawled on the dusty glass, in what looked like condensation, was a single word, Sarah. My blood ran cold. I stumbled back from the window, my mind reeling. It wasn't condensation. It was too precise, too deliberate. Someone had been there. Someone had written my name on the glass. I called Detective Miller. He sounded even more tired than the day before. He promised to send a patrol car by, but said there was little they could do. I spent the rest of the night huddled on the couch, the pepper spray clutched in my hand, watching the shadows dance on the walls. Sleep was a distant memory. The next day, I decided I needed to do something, anything, to regain some control. I went to the local hardware store and bought a security system. The clerk, a young man with kind eyes, walked me through the installation process. He was patient, reassuring, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. That's when I met David. He was browsing the paint section, his brow furrowed in concentration. He noticed me struggling with the security system box and offered to help. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a disarming smile. We talked for a while about the town, about the weather, about everything and nothing. He was easy to talk to, genuine, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of attraction. He asked me out for coffee. I hesitated, torn between my desire for connection and my fear of letting someone get close. But I said yes. The coffee date was normal. Refreshingly, wonderfully normal. We talked about our lives, our dreams, our fears. He was a carpenter, restoring old houses in the area. He loved Havenwood, its quiet charm, its sense of community. He didn't pry, didn't ask about my past. He just listened, his eyes full of understanding. For a few hours, I forgot about Mark, about the fear, about the constant sense of dread that clung to me like a shroud. But as I drove home that evening, the feeling returned, stronger than ever. I felt like I was being watched, followed. I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, but I couldn't see anything. When I got back to the cottage, I checked the security system. Everything seemed fine. But as I walked towards the front door, I noticed something. The rose bushes. Someone had been there. Someone had pruned them. Not just a trim, but a brutal, haphazard hacking. The once lush bushes were now a mangled mess of thorns and broken stems. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. Mrs. Henderson wouldn't do that. She babied those roses like they were her children. I stumbled inside, my heart pounding. I locked the door, bolted it, and activated the alarm system. I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in my own skin. I called Emily. She listened to my frantic ramblings, her voice calm and soothing. "Sarah, you need to report this to the police. This is escalating." I knew she was right, but I was afraid. Afraid of what Mark might do. Afraid of what I might do. The line between reality and paranoia was blurring, and I was losing my grip. The next morning, I woke up to a chilling discovery. My car was gone. Vanished. Stolen. I called Detective Miller, my voice shaking. This time, he sounded concerned. He promised to investigate, to put out an APB on my car, but I knew it was Mark. He was taunting me, playing with me, like a cat with a mouse. He wanted me to be afraid. He wanted me to break. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the dark, the pepper spray in my hand, my eyes fixed on the windows. Every sound, every shadow sent my heart racing. Around 3 a.m., I heard a noise. A faint tapping coming from the back of the house, the same tapping I'd heard before. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. This time, I wasn't going to hide. I was going to confront him. I grabbed a kitchen knife, its blade gleaming in the moonlight. My hand trembled, but my resolve was firm. I crept towards the back door, my heart pounding in my chest. I took a deep breath and threw open the door. Standing there, in the shadows, was David. My blood ran cold. He was holding something in his hand. A pair of pruning shears. "David," I whispered, my voice barely audible, "what are you doing here?" He looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "Sarah, I saw your roses. They were a mess. I thought I'd fix them for you." He stepped into the light. His face was pale, his expression strained. He looked different. "I just wanted to help," he said, his voice low and husky. "I wanted to protect you." My mind raced. Was this really him? Or was this another trick, another manipulation? "Protect me," I said, my voice trembling. "From what?" He took a step closer. "From him, Sarah. From Mark." My breath hitched. How did he know about Mark? I hadn't told him anything. "How do you know about Mark?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He smiled, a slow, unsettling smile. I know everything about you, Sarah. Everything. He raised the pruning shears, their blades glinting in the moonlight. He's not going to hurt you anymore. I won't let him. I screamed. I lunged at him, the knife in my hand. He stumbled back, surprised. I swung the knife, aiming for his chest. He blocked it with the pruning shears. The blade scraped against the knife, sending sparks flying. We grappled, our bodies pressed together, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. He was stronger than me, but I was fueled by adrenaline, by fear, by a desperate will to survive. I managed to break free. I kicked him in the groin. He doubled over in pain. I ran. I ran as fast as I could, away from the cottage, away from David, away from the nightmare that had become my life. I ran until I reached the town square. It was deserted, silent, bathed in the eerie glow of the streetlights. I collapsed on a bench, gasping for air. I looked back at the cottage, at the dark, looming silhouette against the night sky. It was over. I had finally escaped. But as I sat there, alone in the darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. I looked around, my eyes darting from shadow to shadow. Then I saw it, a figure standing in the shadows across the square, a tall, familiar figure. It was Mark. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile. He raised his hand and waved. My blood ran cold. He had been there all along. He had orchestrated everything. He had manipulated me, twisted me, driven me to the brink of madness. He hadn't even needed to lift a finger. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. This was my life now. I opened them again, grabbed a fallen rock and started running towards the figure. I didn't stop.